The heart of India, Delhi. And in the heart of Delhi, there stands Qutub Minnar. And also the downfall of many empires. Radha Krishna Bhoga Sam Radha Navan Bhakti Jai
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to His confounder, Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Okay, we're waiting for Advaita Krishna Prabhu to come in. I think he should be coming in any moment from now. So meanwhile, I'll try to see if I can. I'll play some bhajan, then we wait for him to come.
Krishna.
Okay, Prabhu.
So I got change 29. Hello. You have 20 naira.
Dharma samsthapak lokanam hitakarinam Tribhuvane Mannam Saranam Vicharanai Dharma samsthapak lokanam hitakarinam Tribhuvane Mannam Saranam Dharma samsthapak lokanam hitakarinam Tribhuvane Mannam Saranam Chaitanya Kripaparam Lokana Hitakarinam
Hare Krishna.
Tribhuvane Mannam
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam
Lokanam Hitakarinam Tribhuvane Saranam
Oh, I thought you turned that thing off. Not yet, Prabhupada. Kirtan, I thought.
Radha Krishna
Hare Krishna.
Madana
Krishna.
Radha Krishna Padana
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Welcome, Prabhu.
Can I start?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Savatantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapada Kamalam Sri Gurung Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Shakhanvitanscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakavadhato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambharo Dvijavaro Yugadharmapalo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Vanchakalvadurbhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gandharada Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So okay, manifestations of it is this last chapter today now in unit 9.
Did we finish chapter 7?
We finished last time slok 14.
Yes, we are on 15.
Also, we have half of that left.
Yeah.
So we are on 15 today.
Yeah, on 15. That's why I'm surprised.
No. I scheduled this for Wednesday, but we didn't have class on Wednesday. Okay. You can hear me all?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Uthiraye Nastabreshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Grantarada Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So in this section 15 onwards, the first part of the 8 verses, Vidura is sharing his heartfelt realization with Maitreya. So we will look into these realizations of Vidura. first of all. That's about 8 verses. And then he asked more questions. He asks more questions. So he has further inquiries, and that goes for another 13 or so verses. So 22 to 38, which is second part. And then finally, he concludes with a beautiful note of his full confidence in Maitreya to tell him what he has inquired and that he trusts in him as his spiritual master. So we will try to do our best to cover these today. And I think the free 8 is also under my schedule, Manifestations of Brahma from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, because that will be the last chapter of Unit 9, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So everyone have their books ready. And okay, we still wait. Thank you, Chitra Prabhu, for joining early. And Techno Spark and Techno 16, they are very advanced in the age of Kali. They are using all very technical names, Kali Yuga names. I'm always keep a sense of humor. Life is happy. Oh. Okay, here we have Rasavan Prabhu. He's left his robot body and now he's accepted a human body to join us back. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Vidura uvacha sansina sansayo mahayam tava shuktasina pibo ubhayatrapi bhagavan manome sampradhavati. Vidura said, O powerful sage, my lord, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. My mind is now perfectly entering into them. So let's lay some context to this, what we have discussed. What we have discussed is Ishvara and Jiva, and the relationship of Ishvara and Jiva, and the relationship of how to see, the perception of how to see the Lord being manifest in front of us in different pastimes, and how to understand that. It is not an easy thing. Now, what is the context I want all of us to appreciate here? Let's look at Vidura's relationship with Krishna. Krishna used to be a regular visitor wherever he stayed in the house of the Kauravas, right? In the royal house of Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, he would actually go and visit Vidura. So Vidura was not unknown to Krishna, and Krishna was not unknown to Vidura. But does that mean that it actually led to some kind of a inappropriate understanding of Krishna in Vidura's heart and mind? It may have been also because Vidura is definitely a pure devotee of Krishna, but whenever Krishna comes in his pastimes, he is enacting the role of a relative, for example. He is enacting the role of the king of Dwarka. He is enacting such and such, roles. So his godliness, his bhagavata, his, Bhagavan nishness, so to speak, his godness, is not always so clear. Is not always so clear. So let me just take this one thing. Hare Krishna Maharaj, I just Prabhupada. I'm actually giving the Bhakti Vaibhava course. Can I call you back? Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada. So let's look at this. What was therefore his inquiries? He wanted to understand, because when you see Krishna coming and going, Hastinapur, Dwarka, then Indraprastha, then arranging this person's marriage, then killing this demon, then arranging the Mahabharata youth, then taking part in it, then sitting down with Arjuna and going talking to Draupadi. And it looks all very much like a family person, a relative. So I think that's a context you have to look at. So Vidura did not want to come, with these impressions that may have or may not have. But I'm thinking this is probably the context. So he has asked these questions, right? All my doubts. So definitely he's saying, I have some doubts here. So he said, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. So he was a pure devotee. What was his doubts? Do you understand the context I'm trying to situate here? Right? Shalika Prabhu, are you there with us?
Yes, sir. I'm with you fully.
So what is the context? Because of the familiarity of the relationship. So what happens when Sri Krishna is acting with the Pandavas and Kunti Devi and Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana and Vidura and so on and so forth? His Aishwarya, his opulence as Vaikuntanath, as the Lord of Vaikunt, or his opulence as Dwarkadhish, right? Is not like out in the fore, in the front of everyone. Sometimes it manifests, sometimes it stays hidden, so that they can have a normal relationship with him. So therefore, this has created some doubts as to the real relationship of Krishna with the living entities and so on and so forth. That's a context. Okay? So he said, my mind is now perfectly entering into them. So now he can understand those things. Okay. In the purport, let's say what Prabhupada says. The science of Krishna, or the science of God, and the living entities is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya. But the relationship is subtle because Krishna makes it like that. Krishna does not. This is an interesting part about Vedic culture. In Vedic culture, the Lord has relationship. The Lord has incarnations. The Lord has multiple appearances within humanity, which is not something you see in the other Abrahamic religions. This is quite a departure from the usual Abrahamic religion. So therefore, he is confused about this, and therefore he thought, let me ask Maitreya about it, and let Maitreya give some philosophical explanation to this to me, so that I am clear in my understanding of how this is going on. Like people in the West, they could never understand this. Even in India, some people, some rascal people, they think he's just a normal human being. He died. Krishna died. He was shot by an arrow in his foot and he was killed. That's how they think. So doubts about the eternal relationship of the Lord and the living entity are created by mental speculators in different ways. But the conclusive fact is that the relationship of God and the living entity is one of the predominator and the predominated. He is the Lord and we are his servant. The Lord is the eternal predominator and the living entities are eternally predominated. Real knowledge of this relationship entails reviving the lost consciousness to this standard. And the process for such revival is devotional service to the Lord by clearly understanding from authorities like the sage Maitreya. So Maitreya was very knowledgeable, very philosophically astute. He was more related to the Kumara. He was coming from that sampradaya. He was more people, the Maitreya Rishi. So reviving the lost consciousness of this standard and the process of such a revival in devotional service to the Lord. So by clearly understanding from authorities like the sage Maitreya, one can become situated in real knowledge, and the disturbed mind can thus be fixed on the progressive path. All right, so I hope this is clear. This inquiry is very Contextual, very important. So text 16. Sadvaitadvya haritam vidvan natma mayayanam hare abhati apartam nirmulan vishwamulan nayadbhahi. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned souls have no other basis than the movement of the external energy. So it is an external energy, the movement of the external energy of the Lord. It's always in motion. So the different situations created by the interactions of the free modes of material nature causes that. A living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is a root cause of the material manifestation. We have this envy to become one with him because he is so extremely interesting personality. We want to become one with him. So the conditioned soul under the spell of the external energy of the Lord falsely suffers many unfortunate incidents in material life. The Lord is a predominator of the external energy, Maya, whereas the living entity is predominated by the same Maya under the material conditions. The false attempt of the living entity to occupy the predominating post of the Lord is a cause of this material bondage, and the conditioned soul's attempt to become one with the Lord is the last snare of Maya. So becoming one with the Lord is actually being Mayavad, impersonalist, and trying to become just like the Lord, trying to enjoy, is a competitive spirit, because we want to become controller and enjoyer. But Krishna is a supreme enjoyer, he's a supreme controller, and he's not about to give up that position. Constitutionally, he is at any time. So therefore, we are given other possibilities where we can invariably try to act our desires, and this is the Maya. But this Maya causes bondage, right? Yascha muddato tamo loke, yascha budhe param gata, thavubho sukham edete, krishyati andarito jana. Both the lowest of fools and he who is transcendental to all intelligence enjoy happiness, whereas persons between them suffer the material pangs. So joy, without sense of joy, one could not maintain their livelihood. To be actually existing, one have to have a sense of happiness. Ananda. The ananda from the soul makes the kind of desire for happiness to transpire through the senses, the mind, the intellect, the ahankara, and etc. And through this desire to enjoy and be happy and joyful, which in effect they do experience some kind of a sukha, material happiness. And this is the very reasons why there is such desire to further emulate this process of being in a body, because there is some sukha is there. But it is also, there's so much suffering, so material pangs. But without this ability to experience some kind of a sukha, which means happiness, the living entity will not be able to live. This is the impelling factor. So here it is said that there's two types of persons, some fools and some transcendental. They both enjoy happiness. The fool is happy in his ignorance. But that is also true. It is not just a statement where he's suffering. Because the hogs and the insects in low life, they also have sense pleasure. They also feel happiness. They also feel that happiness. And the transcendentalist situated in Brahman also feels happiness. right? In between, there's bhoga tyag. In between, there is bhoga and tyag. The enjoyment, the enjoyment from material sense enjoyment is you have to let go to be able to re-enjoy the senses again. You can eat, but then you have to stop. And then when your hunger is gone, then again you want to eat, then you eat, and then your hunger is gone, and then you stop. So bhoga, enjoy, and tyag, give up. So the principle of material enjoyment is based on bhoga tyag. Enjoy, stop, enjoy, stop. Whereas someone who is transcendental to all intelligence enjoy the happiness of Brahman. So his happiness is not stop, go, stop, go. Right? And for those who are the lowest of fools or the lowest species of life, they are constantly in anamaya, always feeding like a what do you call a worm in the mud. He's always feeding. A goat is always eating. You know, so they are in that ignorance, and their sense of happiness is coming from whatever the senses give them. And they're happy to do that. The hog is happy to eat whatever rubbish it eats. The goat will keep on eating non-stop. And even when it is sitting and it's not eating, then it is ruminating. Right? So it's a fact. You can look at it two ways. You can look at it like Srila Prabhupada is being a little bit full of sarcasm, the fool, but it's true also. Mode of ignorance does create fools. And the fools are always engaged with the senses. Okay? So Prabhupada is saying in the purport, what I've just explained a little bit, these are persons who are on the level of animals, or animals, right? A hog's life degraded as a standard of happiness, living in a filthy place, but they're still engaging themselves in some kind of a sukha, right? And the other class of men who are liberated, situated on Brahman, they're also enjoying the bliss of Brahman, right? And then they have the Paramahansas, who are liberated and situated in the transcendental position, above happiness, above intelligence, or really happy. They are called Paramahansas, right? But persons who are neither like hogs and dogs, nor on the level of Paramahansas, right in the middle, those are mostly people who are engaged in fruitive activities. They feel the material pangs, and for them, inquiry about the Supreme Truth is necessary. So we feel the pain of material existence. We feel birth, we feel old age, we feel toothache, we feel this and we feel that. And we said, oh gosh, why do I'm suffering? I'm in a suffering condition. So Atato Brahma Jigyasa, I have to inquire about this. Inquire about Brahman so I can go there and stop this nonsensical suffering. You get that? Okay? So text 18. Athara bhavang vinischitya pratitasyapi natmana tam chapi yusam charanam sevayaham paranudhe. But my dear sir, I am obliged to you because now I understand that this material manifestation is without substance. All this while he was engaged in this material manifestation as a minister in the household of Dhritarashtra. Right? Now he can understand that the material manifestation was just a waste of my time all this while. It appeared real. I was acting in it. I was doing this, I was doing that. But now I'm confident that by serving your feet, it will be possible to give up all this false idea. So this is an interesting point. You can go very deep in these topics. Right? When you're young and you're wanting to get married, or you're wanting to settle down, or you're looking forward in life. You're looking forward in life. Okay, I can, you look at your devotee friends and you say, I can do this, I can do that. I can do this better, I can do this better. You know, when I get married, I will be doing this, I'll be doing that, and I'll be having this business and that business. I'm doing this preaching and that preaching. You're looking forward. Even though it may be spiritual, but from a very fruitive angle in terms of your personal life, or even in terms of devotional service. Very fruitive. Very let me get things done. Fortunately, the spiritual master redirects our endeavors towards the lotus feet of Krishna. But ourselves, we're just fools. Right? So then what happens? He says, I'm confident that by serving your feet, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea. But this is the platform of Nishkinchana Gochara. This is a platform of maturity. And Vidura is talking from this platform of maturity. He says, now I can give up this false idea. Now I have seen enough of dualities in my seva, in my service, in my engagement as a prime minister. I have seen enough of this, all this going and coming, happiness and distress, birth and life, and killing and healing and profit and gain, and this against that. Everyone was engaged in so much activities, pros and cons. But when you get a little bit older, you actually can sit peacefully and look back and then have a good laugh at your own foolishness. Gosh, I wish I didn't waste 20 years of my life doing that stupid thing I did. Who thinks like that? Let's just share some realization that now you want to give up the false idea, or you still wanting to think that you can't.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, before we go to the Akinchana platform,
Yep.
someone could ask a question. Of course, actually, someone asked a question.
Yeah.
Looking at what realization.
Just 1 minute, just 1 minute. I'm not able to eat, so I have to take constant hot drinks. So, yeah.
That's okay. So, so my question is, this level of realization, is it meant for everyone? Because someone will say that when one is giving birth to, he grows up, he has taken this material body, and if he has to take this mood, then there will not be need to engage in the normal functions of existence. And the same thing happens with Maharaj Parikshit when he heard about his impending death. He abandoned everything. So, and we have had, at least to some level of realization, that we can even die in 7 seconds. Maharaj Parikshit had 7 days. Vidura here is realizing that all of those times were a waste. So, is this level of realization for everyone?
For devotees, it has to be. Otherwise, we are devotee fools or enlightened devotees.
But then, if that be the case, if this should be the mood for all of the devotees, then how do one be able to apply the systematic growth in coming to, because it makes some devotees become what these are kind of the mentalities that we have earlier in the devotional service, and we feel like this out of artificial birth. I call it artificial because it wasn't realistic, because it was realistic, we will not be lamenting. But in the beginning days, we hear about Bhakti, we hear the glories of Bhakti, and we abandon everything. And because we didn't die anyway, in 10 years, in 20 years, the reactions of our decisions at that time start falling back. And someone start feeling, oh, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but you can call that learning process. It's simple, because we act through fruitive activities. Their desire is not pure. It's not Uttama Bhakti. We have independent desires of actions. because of independent desires of actions, independent desire of seva even, independent desire for doing this service and that service, then it is not Uttama Bhakti. It's not Uttama Bhakti. In Uttama Bhakti, there is no separate desire other than the interest of Krishna. So because we are young, immature, without nishtha, then we have independent desires of service. Within our desires of services, we also have our own personal motivations embedded into them. Some reasons or some, So because it is mixed, the idea is we want to serve Krishna. That is clear from day one. We came into the movement to serve Krishna. The idea is clear. But who we are and how we are and how we are made and where we come from, the baggage is still there. So because of the weight of the baggage, it doesn't allow us to perform services exclusively for the pleasure of Krishna. It is mixed with us. So then after a while, when you realize that those things, I could have done it like this. Why? Why do you realize a mistake? Because the mistakes were your own personal motivations embedded into them. Your own desire embedded into them. I wanted to achieve this. I wanted to achieve that. I wanted to achieve this. I wanted to do it this way, but I couldn't do it this way. Now I understand it was full. So because of that, but if it would have been pure devotional service right from day one, Uttama Bhakti, without any independent desire, and we followed our Guru's order in every single way and keep ourselves complete. But it was not possible because that was not our adhikar.
It's not exactly.
It wasn't our adhikar. It wasn't meant to be because we were not that way. We were who we were. But now when you can sit back and you can have a good laugh at it. So just like Vidura is realizing, he's sharing his realizations, right? And I'm confident that by serving your feet, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea. This is a very intense statement.
So Prabhu, how do we apply this in our preaching? In the sense that there is one experience I had several years back, almost 3 decades ago, and it kept on reflecting in my head because, okay, the scenario was that a particular lady came to the temple, I think read a book or something, then he came to the temple. Then I was preaching to her, and then somehow or the other we start talking about sex life, and I was so much heavy, narrating Bhagavatam and the diminishing nature of sex life.
Dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, right?
Exactly. To the extent that the lady became so remorseful and regretful that she actually even got married in the first place. So he said this was all a mistake. And after that, she left her married life and all of that. I couldn't connect with her again for now, so I don't know what has happened. But she wasn't a regular temple devotee, but she left her family life. And so many other experiences of devotees like this. So in preaching, my question is that, can we preach this level of realization to a neophyte, or is it not appropriate? Because
no, you're more you will say the right things, but you'll be more tolerant and understanding because you have more maturity, so you will understand. You will be strict to yourself and you'll be liberal with others. Whereas in the beginning, we were all fools, both inside and outside. So you'll be more liberal with others and encourage them stepwise, and you'll be more strict to yourself because you've learned.
Okay, good.
Right? And I think it's no one's fault. It's just the learning process. Right? I just I'm sorry about this, but but 25 years ago, when I was just about coming to Africa, about just before that, I left my services as a temple president, and my wife Sumitra told me something. And she said to me something very intense and said, can we talk about something? I said, yeah. He said, we came back from UK and we wanted to do service because we were okay there, but maintenance, and we thought it's an easier place to do devotional service. So we came back here. We had kids, and he said, but we spent these 20 years fighting the cause of ISKCON and trying to see things in a certain way, set this right, set that right. And if we hadn't done that, and we kept ourselves to ourselves and carried on chanting and reading Prabhupada books and doing preaching services and don't get involved in anything, we'd have been a lot more advanced. We'd have been a lot better off. And she told me that. And it was a very deep realization. And that very day, then in the evening, I went to see my mom and I said, what do you want me to do? And she told me, I never want you to ever be involved in anything to do with committees in ISKCON, which means management. Talk to my Guru Maharaj. Forgive me, Rose, I haven't eaten for 2 days, and that's why I'm like that. So I have to take pills because the pain is there.
We are not even greeting you. We are not even greeting you after your operation. We are so sorry. We have it in mind, but because we don't want to waste time.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Got two big holes in my mouth.
Sorry.
My mother told me the same thing. And then, and she told me, you promise me? And I said, I do promise. She was an initiated devotee, very smart lady, illiterate, didn't know how to read, write. She would, put the thumbprint instead of signature. But very educated because she used to hear Bhagavatam every day in the house from my sister in Hindi, every day. They were very educated. And she told me, don't do that. He said, you can just preach, just preach. And just do seva and preach. Don't do anything. So it's like this was a wake-up call for me. And for the last 23 years, I haven't done that. I've done what my mom asked me to do. I've taken the advice of my ex-wife and what she said. And I thought, and it served me well. I have carried on studying. When I came to West Africa, some of you might know me, Gurudev wanted me to have a big position there. And I said to Gurudev, no, I will teach and train, but I will not be in anything to do with management at all. And I let the devotees run their show. I will sit and give advice, but I will not make decisions. And he was very happy. He said, you made that decision very strongly. He said, yes, Gurudev, I'm not going to do that. To Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Just a practical example. It's nothing serious or anything. But then now I look back, if I had been like that for the first 20 years of my life, then I would have 43 years of very constructive. But then those were learning process, the first 20 years of doing this silly thing. Because you also learn to get it out of your system. You think that Vidura would have been able to go to Maitreya in the middle of his youth and talk to Maitreya like this? When he had the position of being the prime minister, and no, it requires that level of, so that's why as we are older devotees, it's good to be able to share, to be very dispassionate and to share these things based on Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's why when I was looking at this and I think, wow, this is so nice. Because I remember studying them. I said, Vidura's realization. Then Vidura's Vanaprashta itself, Vidura's Vanaprashta. You look at Vidura's Vanaprashta, read it, and see yourself. We are all Vanaprashtas except for Jyoti Swarup. And, Chitraputra is still a baby, so, you follow what I'm saying? And yeah, like that. So look at it like that and see, wow, I need to be on that kind of, and therefore study Bhagavatam, read and chant Bhagavatam, and it will be a different thing. So look at it, don't look at it like I'm reading this to get my Bhakti Vaibhava. I'm reading this because through this, my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada and the senior Vaishnavas want me to see what's the reality of my life and how do I move forward from here? You follow me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is not theoretical, it's very practical application for all of us. So he said, but my dear sir, okay, we've already discussed that, okay? So let's see what Prabhupada says, whether it is a little bit in sync with what we've just discussed reading the verse. Let's read the Prabhupada's purport. The sufferings of the conditioned souls are superficial and have no intrinsic value, like the cutting off of one's head in a dream. Okay. Yet, although this statement is theoretically very true, it is very difficult for the common man or the neophyte on the transcendental path to realize practically, right? We do not realize practically. We identify with the sufferings of the body. It is very relatable to all of us. So, however, by serving the feet of great transcendentalists like Maitreya Muni and by constantly associating with them, one is unable to give up the false idea of the soul's suffering and the soul, doing these things, which isn't true at all. So this is a false idea. Anarthopasamam shakshat bhakti yoga madhokshaje. Ajanato vidvang chakre sattva samhitam. That the suffering of the living entity is superfluous to the soul. But the general people don't know that. But this sage, Vyasadeva, he knows about it. And therefore he's composed this Samhita. He's composed this Samhita. So we can actually understand. He's composed the Srimad Bhagavatam, so we know. Right? So Vidura's inquiry is saying, now I can give up this false idea. It's very interesting. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Chaitanya Prem Prabhu. So text 19. Yat sevaya bhagavata kutasthaya madhudvisha ratiraso bhavit tivra padayor vyasanadhara. By serving the feet of the spiritual master, one is unable to develop transcendental ecstasy in the service of the personality of Godhead, who is the unchangeable enemy of the Madhuri, and whose service vanquishes one's material distress. So, devotional service. So we are where we are at and we have deeper reflections is because we practice devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the realizations are not theoretical, they are vijnana. They are deep within our feelings, our inner antakarana, our inner mind, and our consciousness. And therefore our habits, our behavior, our consciousness, and our dealings, our general countenance in devotional service in human life as we are, is an effect of the practice of devotional service for some years. So we can see that. Okay? So Srila Prabhupada takes it a little bit to a higher understanding in the purport. And the association of a bona fide spiritual master like the sage Maitreya can be of absolute help in achieving the transcendental attachment of the direct service of the Lord. The Lord is the enemy of the Madhu demon, and in other words, is the enemy of the suffering of his pure devotee. So the Madhu demon is a demon of doubt, right? It's a demon of doubt. And I think Srila Prabhupada make this point in the Nectar of Devotion and in the Bhagavad Gita. So when there is doubt and there is no solid nishtha to serve the Supreme Lord, then we suffer. So the Lord is the enemy of the Madhu demon. In other words, he is the enemy of the suffering of his pure devotee. The word rati rasa is significant. Service to the Lord is rendered in different transcendental mellows: neutral, active, friendly, parental, and nuptial. Do you relate to this at this point? Give me a feedback. Now, do you relate personally? Do you relate to it theoretically, or do we relate to it personally?
Yeah, personally, this particular session of the Bhagavatam for me, it's realization of some of the experience in the past and the present state of consciousness.
No, I'm talking about the transcendental mellows. Service to the Lord is rendered in different transcendental mellows: neutral, active, friendly, parental, and nuptial. Some realization, practical realization on it, or it's just a theoretical, far-fetched idea so far?
Well, I would say in between for me. I think that's what I would say for me.
Yeah, so it's like, that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is Bhuvi and Bhavuka. One who has Bhava, who is established in his Sthayi Bhav, in his relationship of Shanta, Dasya, Vatsalya, Sakya. Bhagavatam will benefit him. And for most of us who are still on the platform of trying to disentangle ourselves from material energy, Bhuvi will also be useful. So a living entity in the liberated position of transcendental service to the Lord becomes attracted to one of the above mentioned mellows. So liberated position of transcendental service to the Lord becomes attracted to one of the above mentioned mellows. And then one is engaged in transcendental loving service to the Lord. One's service attachment to the material world is automatically vanquished. So we are engaged in some kind of a service attachment to the material world based on some perverted mellow, or being a master, like the husband in the house, or the father in the, I'm the maintainer, I'm the bhakta, I'm the enjoyer because I'm the main person who's bringing money in the house. I'm maintaining the wife and family, and I'm build this house, so I'm the bharta. So these kind of things are there, right? So the service attachment in the material world is automatically vanquished by devotional service to the Lord. So slowly, slowly we realize that I have no other position except servant of the Lord. And after long years of practice into that position of thinking I'm the servant of the Lord, then there is sort of, like Sarika Prabhu saying, some idea of how I may serve, I may not serve. But that is quite far away. Whether I have a relationship in neutrality, or I have a relationship in servitorship, or I'm more inclined to have a relationship with the Supreme, that is not so much on our radar at this point. That's what I was meaning. Right? So as stated in Gita, Raso Varjam Rasopyasya Param Drishtani Vartate. That is, by giving up the lower taste, we develop a higher taste. But the higher taste is a rasa. It may not manifest, it may not be clear. Someone asks you, what is your rasa with the Supreme Lord? What is for service? No, I mean, what is your rasa? What do you mean, what is my rasa? I mean, you gopi, or you a cowherd boy, or you are just a servant at the door? What is it? But you're feeling a rasa. Rasova, Prabhupada brings even that verse in 259 to signify it. Rasovarjam rasopyasya param dishtani vartate. You have a rasa, you have a higher taste of a superior relationship with the Supreme Lord. That's how we are giving up the lower taste in material life. But that higher taste may not be defined. It is defined in service, in seva, but it is not defined in a particular Sthayi Bhav, Shanta Das. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so we've been sorted out and put into this fencing. Okay, now we have a relationship. We're experiencing some rasa in our relationship, and we're not so much attached to the material life behind. Now we're experiencing some joy in chanting. We're experiencing some steadiness in our seva, reading Bhagavatam, serving the devotees, and whatever happens, we keep going on. Now we're steady. Right? From there on, now, other levels of spiritual attainment will be built. Right? There, Prabhupada always giving us, if Prabhupada said, now you're experiencing some rasas, very nice. Now you're very, very good. You're a very good devotee. No, Prabhupada saying there's higher. There's Santa, Dasya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. That's why he's saying that to us. right?
Hmm.
So not just feeling because we're happy in our devotional service.
Mhm.
We can become happy in devotional service, but there is something more to be had. Durapahi alpa tapasa seva vaikunta vartpasa vartmasu yatropagiyathe nityam deva devo janardana. Persons whose austerity is meager can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotees who are progressing on the path back to the kingdom of Godhead, the Vaikunthas. So without austerity, you don't get anything. So if we are just very always easygoing in our spiritual life, and we're not making an extra effort, because austerity, tapasya, is the basis of spiritual advancement. If it, yeah, I'm giving class, right? So tapasya is important path of devotional service. So pure devotees.
Là, ça, je suis supposé de nous, c'est grave avec la libraire là. Mais c'est pas l'idée de Dieu pour ce calendrier.
J'ai on pas encore ramasse casse pour le calendrier, on vous donne après.
Vous aimez ça?
Oui. So without austerity, you know, and serving pure devotees, you know, that means also following the order of Srila Prabhupada and spiritual master, and you know, our authorities to actually perform our devotional service with dedication, austerity, and some level of penance and so on. You know, but if the austerity is meager, then the result is not there. That means we stay in our comfort zone with our material entanglements and attachments. Whereas we make an effort to move forward, to, you know, go like that. Okay, so here it is saying in the purport, the path of liberation is recommended by, so pure devotees engage 100, sorry, I didn't read the verse completely. Pure devotees engage 100% in glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of the demigods and controller of all living entities. So he's engaged in the service of Maitreya, and he's thinking pure devotees are engaged 100%. So I'll make an effort to catch up and try to be engaged in your service, in the service of the Mahabhagavat. Like it is said in the first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, that by serving the pure devotees of the Supreme Lord, a great service is achieved. Sitvagre mahadadini swakvikarani anukramat lebhyo virajang uddrityatam anu pravishad vibhu. After creating the total material energy, the Mahat Tattva, and thereby manifesting the gigantic universal form with senses and sense organs, which is a Virat Rupa, the Supreme Lord entered within it. Right? So, fully satisfied by the answers of the sage Maitreya, Vidura wanted to understand the remaining portions of the creating functions of the Lord. So he understood the relationship of the Lord with the jivas, the relationship of the Lord with the different living entities, and how the Supreme Lord is manifesting this whole creation and everything. He has understood part of that. Now he wants to understand more about this, and thereby manifesting the gigantic universal. So he said now he wants to understand more about it. So what more? Vidura wanted to understand the remaining portions of the creating function of the Lord. Right? How does it further proceeds? And he took the clue from the previous topics. So Yamahuradyan Purusham Sahasrangi Urubhakuham Yatra Vishwai Meloka Savikashang Ashate. The Purusha incarnations lying on the causal ocean, the Purusha incarnation lying in the causal ocean, is called the original Purusha in the material creation. The Purusha incarnation lying on the causal ocean is called the original Purusha in the material creation, and in his Virat form, in whom all the planets and their inhabitants live, he has many thousands of legs and hands. So the first Purusha that lies on the causal ocean is obviously Karanodakshaya Vishnu. And the second Purusha is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. It's in the purport. And the third Purusha is Shirodakshaya Vishnu. In whom is contemplated the Virat Purusha, the gigantic form, in which all the planets with their different developments and inhabitants are floating. Okay? So Shirodakshaya Vishnu acts like the soul of all that is created. So Garbhodakshaya Vishnu acts as a soul of each universe. Karanodakshaya Vishnu, he acts as a predominator or the soul of the pradhana or the material energy. Then all the individual universes, the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enters into each of them. And he activates the birth of Lord Brahma and then the creation thereof, and he takes care of all these things. Then all these things are created, then Shirodakshaya Vishnu, he takes care of that. Okay. Yasmin dasa vidha prana sendriyarthendriya strivrit tvaye rito yathos varnas tad vibhutir vadashina. O great Brahmana, you have told me that the gigantic Virat Rupa form, any senses, sense objects, and 10 kinds of life air exist with 3 kinds of life vigor. Now, if you will, kindly explain to me the different powers of the specific divisions. So we've looked at the 10 kinds of life air, and we've also looked at the 10 objects and 3 kinds of life vigor. So now, if you will, kindly explain to me the different powers of specific divisions. Yatra putresya pautresya naptribhi sahajo gotrajai praja vichitraktaya ashan yabhiridang tatam. O my Lord, I think that the process manifest in the forms of sons, grandsons, and family members has spread all over the universe in different varieties and species. So he's saying that there is a process of procreation, because through the process of procreation, the Lord has created males and females, and they have procreated, and therefore, if this process is manifest, sons, grandsons, and family, and they've spread all over the universe. Right? So in other words, he's asking about what about the different types of lives, different varieties and different species, because he sees that the species, they actually tasam brahma mahadyoni raham bija prajapita, all species are born out of this material nature, and I'm the seed-giving father. But then the species, they procreate and they propagate, by themselves. And the Lord just gives the soul in them. So he's saying like that here, right? This procreation has gone on. So not just the process of creation from Karanodakshaya to Garbhodakshaya, then to Shirodakshaya, but then also he's talking about the Visharga here. The creations of Lord Brahma with the progenitors, which thereof then create by themselves. Right? He has a set of progenitors who generate the different species. Kashyapa Muni, Swayambhuva, and so on and so forth. And Daksha, Prajapatis. So let's see, text 25, he says, Prajapatinam chapatis kalpe khan prajapatim sargam chaiva nusargam cha nanum nanvataradipam. O learned Brahmana, please describe how the leader of all the demigods, namely Prajapati Brahma, decided to establish the various manus, the head of the ages. So what is this he's asking about here? He's talking about Manvantaras. So he asks questions about Manvantara, the age of the various manus, which is the head of the ages. So an age is an interval in a day of Brahma. That's what he's more or less signifying. In a particular interval in the day of Brahma, which is divided into 14. This becomes an age of influence, of management by a particular Manu. So, how did Brahma, the leader of the demigods, who is like a Prajapati himself, Brahma, and how did he establish the various Manus? Please describe the Manus also. And please describe the descendants of those Manus. So we are talking not just now Sharga, we are talking Visharga. You follow now? Secondary creation. All ingredients and everything is fully mixing and manifesting. But it's still, according to the guna and karma, Brahma has to give different sthanam, different situations, different positions, different species, different lives, in different universes, under different conditions and circumstances, based on their guna and karma. They do have guna and karma, because they're coming from previous cycle of creation and destruction. Do you follow? Or the previous day of Brahma. So they have all of that. So how does he manage that? How does Lord Brahma do that? So purport, the human race of Manushya Sara descends from the Manu, sons and grandsons of Prajapati Brahma. The descendants of Manu reside in all the different planets and rule all the universe. Okay, so the descendants of Manu reside in all the different planets. This is a very important point, please note it. So Swayambhuva Manu was also on the Earth planet. And descendants of Manu not always in the Brahma Loka, Satyaloka, they're all over in different planets. Because in that shift, in that interval divided into 14 in the day of Brahma, when Manu is in charge, he is not looking after one particular universe, but the whole 14 different planetary systems. They're all under his care, because they manage the whole universal affairs with the demigods. They come together with the devatas, they come together with the Saptarishis, the 7 sages. They also have an incarnation of the Lord with them. We call them Manvantara Avatar. The Manus sometimes are also an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. But you will see that there's Manvantara Avatar with them, just like Vamana Dev. In this present age, the Manvantara Avatar is actually Vamana Dev. He's residing with his brother Indra in Indralok. So I want to give a bit of picture so you will start to understand about Manvantara as we proceed. Okay? So, O son of Mitra, kindly describe how the planets are situated above the earth as well as underneath it. So he asks about sthanam. This is sthanam. Okay? Or samstha, sometimes called samstham, situation or sthanam. You see that word in the verse, Tesham samstham pramanam cha, bhurlokasya cha varnaya. So sometimes it's called Sangstha or sometimes called Sthanam, right? Which is one of the 10 subject matter of the Bhagavatam. So now he's asked about Visharga, the creation of the species. He's asked about the rule of the Manus, Manvantara, and he's also asked about the planetary system, Sthanam. So free out of the 9 subjects. One subject is being covered, which is Sharga. Then Visharga he's asking. Then he's asking about Manvantaras. And then he's asking about Sthanam, 4. Hello, everyone, wake up. You understanding?
Yes, we are following you, Prabhu.
Okay. So this Yasmin Vigyate Sarvam Evam Vigyatam Bhavati. This is Mundaka Upanishad. This Vedic hymn declares emphatically that the devotee of the Lord knows everything material and spiritual in relationship with the Lord. So devotees are not simply emotional, as is ill-conceived by certain less intelligent men. Their direction is practical. They know everything that is and all the details of the Lord's domination over the different creations. So we need to understand these things to understand how the Lord is doing this. So these topics are there. Tiryam manusam devanang sharisripa patatrinang vadana sarga sangvyuhang garbha swedha dvijo vidham. Also, please describe the living beings under different classifications of humans. Humans, those born of embryo, those born of perspirations, those who are twice born, birds, and the plants and vegetables. Describe their generations and subdivisions also. So he's asking about different types of humans, subhumans. Subhumans means lower than humans, or sometimes also yakshas and rakshasas. And humans, different categories of humans, then those born of embryo. Right? There's one type of birth born of embryo. What are those born of perspirations? These are generally microbes and little insects and things like that. They're born out of perspiration. Those who are twice born, they're not talking about the Dvija here. Why birds are considered twice born? Dijobidham. Because first they are born by the egg being laid, and then when the egg hatch, then the birds are born. So they're twice born. Okay? So, and the plants and vegetables, how? From seeds, from the soil, from seeds. So he said bija, and the word is dvijo and bidam, of the plants, ubidam, of the plants. So different types of species. Those who are born from embryo, like animals and humans. Then those who are born of perspiration. Those who are born from eggs. And those animals are born from eggs. And then also plants. They're born from the soil, from seeds. So this is asking a detailed description of the secondary creation under the stewardship of Lord Brahma. Gunavatare Vishwasya Sargastita Prayashrayam Srichataha Srinivasaya Sasya Yachaksh Vodara Vikramam. Please also describe the incarnations of the material modes of nature. So he wants a clear description of the gunas, And the incarnations of the modes of material nature means the guna avatar. He wants to understand the guna avatar, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha. And please describe the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he is magnanimous. So then this is Ishanukatha. This is Ishanukatha. This is incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his magnanimous activities. This is called Ishanukatha. So we've described how much here, how many here. So we had Sharga, then Yasva Visharga, then Sthanam, then Manvantara, now Ishanukatha. The pastimes of the different personality of Godhead. 5 topics. So he's laying down the subject matter of the Bhagavatam by these questions. Okay, text 29. Varnashami vibhaganscha rupashila sabhavata Krishinang janma karmani vedasya cha vikarshanam. O great sage, kindly describe the divisions of orders of human society in terms of symptoms. Listen carefully, because this will give you an understanding of the subject matter of Bhagavatam. O great sage, kindly describe the divisions and orders of human society in terms of symptoms, behavior and characteristics of mental equilibrium and sense control. Also, please describe the birth of the great sages and the categorical divisions of the Vedas. So here he's talking about the 4 divisions of human society: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, and also the different stages of the different stages of human life: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, which are divisions of quality. Okay, and so all these divisions are based on a particular nature of each individual person and not on the principle of birth. Birth is mentioned in this verse because birth is immaterial. It's not mentioned. Vidura is famous in history as born of a Sudrani mother, yet he is more than a Brahmana by qualification because he is seen to be the disciple of a great sage, Maitreya Muni. Unless one achieves at least a Brahminical qualification, one cannot understand the Vedic hymns. Mahabharata is also a division of the Vedas, but it is meant for women, Sudras, and Dvijabandhus, the worthless children of the higher section. The less intelligent section of society can avail themselves of the Vedic instructions simply by studying the Mahabharata. Any questions or comments so far?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
I just, my observation is that the questions being asked by Vidura, they are so detailed, and then as far as my prayer is also concerned, did he learn all this knowledge from his guru, or is it part of his association with Krishna, personal association with Krishna? Because this knowledge, they are so much detailed, and only great personality can answer this kind of detailed questions. So detailed.
So, I mean, who learned what? Even Maitreya, how did he learn?
Did he learn all this from his spiritual master, or is it part of his personal association with Krishna? The knowledge is so deep.
You see, generally the process is you learn from the spiritual master under the inspiration of the Shastra. Knowledge is always from Shastra. You see, when it comes to Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, Shastra is more important. Because even if you want to understand who is Guru and who is Sadhu, it is established in Shastra. So he is learned not by personally studying Shastra, but studying Shastra under the care of his spiritual master. And his extra association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the last stage of Lord Krishna's pastime has given him extra understanding and realization of the Supreme Lord. Yes, but we have to always understand that knowledge is always coming in the reciprocal succession, and then that the sadhus and the gurus, they do not speak outside the ambit of the Shastra, the scriptures. So it may look detailed to you, but Srimad Bhagavatam is only giving certain, of course, it is our pramana, it is our most important scripture, but Srimad Bhagavatam is giving all these things in such a way so that our faith and our love and devotion for Krishna will be increased. So he learned that. It may seem very detailed, but if we carefully hear and understand how Prabhupada is explaining it, it's not so difficult to understand, because he goes by general principles. So Shraddha means Shastrat, Vishwasa. Shraddha means we actually have, we actually get this faith from Shastra. So if we have the faith in the Shastra, then we will understand this. And this is very important. You have to have that faith that you will learn this from the Shastra. If you do not have that faith that you can learn it from Shastra, then there's no other way. Prabhupada has written all these books because he wants us to learn this. Right? So he says, Shraddha Nama Shastrata Vishwas. So we have to have faith in the scripture and faith in Guru and Krishna, and these Shastras, this knowledge will be revealed unto us. So where did he learn it? It's all Veda, it's all knowledge in the Shastras. Because neither Maitreya is concocting, nor is Krishna concocting. Of course, Krishna can concoct, but even he speaks from Shastra. Even he speaks things that are in scripture. Even though he has put the scripture forward, he will teach according to scripture.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So yeah, Krishna, Dharmantu Sakshat Bhagavad Pranitam. He is the one who put forward the Shastras, but he will not go against the Shastic Pramana, because he's Adi Guru. I hope it answers your question. I think
Yes, you do,
it
Prabhu.
reinforces an important point, because we tend to think in a manner that is not, it's a little bit skewed to think like that. But we have to understand that everything is coming from Shastra, from the Vedas, and all this knowledge is knowledge of the Vedic literatures. It may be explained differently, adapted differently, edited differently according to the speaker or the writer, Vyasadeva or Sukadeva Goswami. Okay, so I'm on text number 30 now. So he says, Yagyasya cha vitanani yogasya cha patat prabho nishkarmyasya cha sankyasya tatram va bhagavata smritam. Please also describe the expansions of different sacrifices and the path of mystic powers. So please also describe the expansion of the different sacrifices and the path of mystic powers, right? Analytical study of knowledge and devotional service and all their respective regulations. The word tantram is here significant herein. Sometimes tantram is misunderstood to be black spiritual science of materialistic persons engaged in sense gratification. But here tantram means the science of devotional service compiled by Srila Vishwalanarad Muni. What tantram is that? Can anyone say? Pancharatrika Vidhi. Narada Pancharatram. Okay. Tantra means procedures. Okay. Yantra means machine. Tantra means procedures. Mantra means invocations. So the Narada Pancharatra actually describes the procedures for deity worship. So the different, he says, expansion of different sacrifices under the path of mystic yoga. These are called tantras, and they're explained by Narad Muni. But here tantram means the service of devotional, the science of devotional service, compiled by Srila Narad Muni. One can take advantage of such regulative explanations of the path of devotional service and make progressive advancement in the devotional service of the Lord. This is Narada Pancharatra. And then Sankhya philosophy is the basic principles of acquiring knowledge, as will be explained by the sage Maitreya through inquiry, detailed inquiry, which is Sankhya. But what knowledge? Knowledge of devotional service. Knowledge of the intricacies of devotional service. Detailed understanding of different aspects of devotional service. Here is Sankhya. The Sankhya philosophy enunciated by Kapila, the son of Devahuti, is Devahuti Kapila, is a real source of knowledge about the supreme truth. The knowledge not based on the Sankhya philosophy is mental speculation and can yield no tangible profit. So do you have any questions on these, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Please, in the case of the yantras, apart from, can it also be seen as I understand it, some of the symbols instead of machine symbols, is it the same? Like when we are performing Vayajna, we draw some symbols and other things. Are they all, as you understand it? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yantras are supposed to be some magical or some yantras. Those generally are called symbolic things. You know, you draw these things in the Havan Kund and place different divisions and different directions and so on. These are also yantras, but generally the meaning of yantras is implements. Implements.
Okay. Okay.
And implements can be a simple diagram which is drawn, it becomes an implement, or it can be a pushpa vimana, like the vimanas that the demigods and the yogis travel in. Those are all yantras, they're machines.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you. Also, in the previous test, also, when we give example as twice born animal like bird, does it also imply that snakes and, let's say, lizards can also be considered as twice born animals?
Yes.
Since they are also come from eggs.
Yeah, because its classification is from embryo, from sweat, perspirations, number 2, number 3 from eggs, number 4 from seeds and soil. There's only 4 categories. If you look at everything, all the species that are born in these 4 categories.
Okay.
Where the Dvija is obviously everything that's born out of eggs. They're not born out from embryo, they're outside the body of the parent.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah?
thank you. Thank you.
There's 4 categories.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. '31. Pashanda Patavaishamyam Pratiloma Niveshanam Jivasya Gatayo Yascha Yavatir Gunakarmaja. Please also describe the imperfections and contradictions of the faithless atheist. The situation of crossbreeding. Interesting. Krishna has created a certain order, varnas and ashramas. And it doesn't always happen that we do everything to maintain the purity of the varnas and the ashramas. So sometimes there are situations of crossbreeding. Here it means different species of life or different beings from different gunas. And also describe the movements of the living entities in various species of life. Now, the different movements of living species in the species of life will be described by Kapila Dev in Sankhya Yoga. This will be understanding material nature, wanderings of different living entities, chapter 27, 28, and so on. Okay, in this canto. So then different birth of different living entities in various species of life according to the particular modes of nature and work. This question here is answered in description of Lord Kapila birth due to adverse fruitive activities, and also Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities, which is chapter 30 and 31 respectively of Canto 3. Right? And different species of life or evidence of varieties of mixtures of the modes of material nature, and how different ways different living entities are entangled. These are all explained by Lord Kapila in Sankhya. Okay, which will start from 25 up to 33, 8 chapters by Lord Kapila. You may also describe the non-contradictory causes of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. What are these for? This is called Purushartha. Dharmartha kama mokshanam nimitani avirodhata varthaya dhandanitescha krutasya cha vidim prithak. Text 32. So, non-contradictory causes of religiosity. Then economic development. Religiosity means dharma. Economic development means artha. You see, text 32 is explaining this. Dharma, artha, kama, and mokshanam, and salvation, moksha. And also the different means of livelihood. Vartaya dandanitescha srutasya cha vidim prithak, and different processes of law, vidhi, regulations, and order. Okay, and different codes of scriptures, order, dandaniti. There has to be certain order, certain law, and rules and regulations. So Varthaya means principles by which different species maintain their livelihood. So there you will understand how Lord Brahma has created species and the species They themselves, they look after their own. The mother and the father will feed the baby, and so on. This is all created by Lord Brahma. And then law and order, Dandaniti, and different scriptures and their codes, which is Manu Samhita and so on, codes of scripture, Shrutasya. And different rules and regulations with him in various scriptures. Okay. It's the reason that Lord Krishna, he gives this original knowledge, the sum total, the whole corpus of knowledge to Lord Brahma. So he organizes and Visharga, the secondary creation based on these principles. So now we go to text 33. Shradasya cha vidim brahman pitranang sargameva cha graham nakshatra taranam kala vayaya samstitim. Please also explain the regulations for offering respects to the forefathers. Right? This is the pujas, the different procedures that are required for the departed souls. And then also describe the creation of Pitriloka, then the cycle and the time schedule of the planets, of the different stars and luminaries and their respective situations. This is Thanam. Okay. Text 34. Danasya tapaso vapi yacheshta purtayo phalam pravasastasya yo dharmo yascha pungsha uthapati. Please also describe the fruity results of charity and penance and digging of reservoirs of water. So the different pious activities, such as charity, such as penance, such as, anthropological work, social work for the betterment of humanity, like creating ponds and reservoirs of water. Please describe the situation of persons who are away from home and also the duty of a man in an awkward position. So, if you have certain incongruencies, how to deal with. And also someone is away from home. So he's talking about more vanaprashta here. Different categories of vanaprashta, talks about that. So the digging of reservoir water for public use is a great work of charity. And retiring from family life after 50 years of age is a great act of penance, which is called vanaprashta. And he describes in detail different categories of vanaprashta ashram. Ye nava bhagavan stushyet dharma yonir janardana samprashidhaye va yeshang etad akhyai me gananaga. O sinless one, because of the Supreme Personality of God, the control of all living entities, is the father of all religion. And all those who are candidates for religious activities, kindly describe how they can be completely satisfied. So Prabhupada quotes the text 7:16 in the Bhagavad Gita about the 4 categories of people who search for shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord for some reasons or the other. And they're called the 4 pious kind of individual: the needy, the distressed, the enlightened, and the inquisitive. They approach the Lord in devotional service, and their devotion is mixed with material affection. So they want something, they approach the Lord. So the devotion is mixed. But above them are the pure devotees whose devotions are not mixed, whose devotion is not tainted, not mixed by any material tinges of fruity work or speculative knowledge. Those who are in Uttama Bhakti. Those who are only miscreants, but also there are those who are miscreants. On the other side of the coin, the demons, 4 categories who do not surrender to the Lord. So Prabhupada elaborate on this text 35 by explaining the two verses from Bhagavad Gita 7:15 and 7:16. Text 36. Anuvratanam sishyanam putranam chaduchotama anaprishtam apir bhruyur guravodina vatsalaha. O best among the Brahmanas, those who are spiritual masters, are very kind to the needy. They are always kind to their followers, disciples and sons. And without being asked by them, the spiritual master describes all that knowledge. So he's describing here about the Brahmanas, the spiritual masters, who actually, they're not waiting. Srila Prabhupada did not wait for anyone to invite him to go to America and start. Everyone's awake? And Prabhupada did not wait for anyone to ask him to invite him to go to America. He did that on his own because he has compassion. They are kind to the needy in terms of in every way. Disciples and sons without being asked by them. So just like we're not meant to instruct people who are not our disciples, we are not meant to instruct people who are not our children. No one is allowed to instruct anyone except if they ask you, or if they are your disciples or they are your son. We're not meant to go around dishing out instructions. Hey, Prabhu, do this. Prabhu, do that. It's not what we're meant to do. So when you hear this, you think, oh, disciples and sons, putting it in the general category. No. It is very specific. Instructions are given to disciples, and you can also instruct your sons. But you cannot even instruct your wife. Quite interesting. Because everyone is a servant. The followers, disciples and son on one level of the bona fide spiritual master, and he's always kind to them and always speak to them on transcendental subjects, even though he is not asked by them. That is the nature of the bona fide spiritual master. But Vidura appealed to Maitreya to speak on the subjects which he might not have asked. Text 37. Tatvanam bhagavam steshang kadida pratishankrama tatremam chaupashriram koyusvid anusherate. Please describe how many dissolutions there are for the elements of material nature, and who survives after the dissolutions. So he asked about the cyclic dissolutions, many types of dissolutions, right? There's dissolution sometimes at the end of a manvantara. Sometimes there's daily dissolutions at the end of Brahma's day. Then there is a dissolution at the end of Brahma's life, right? And then also there's dissolution at the death of a particular person. That's also dissolution. Like, look, I am living here in this plot of land, I have this house. Okay? Upon my death, this is complete dissolution for me. For me. Nothing will belong to me next life. It's called Atyantika Pralaya. The body will be dissolved, and everything that is connected to the body will be dissolved. So that is death, is a dissolution. It's an annihilation. Right? Everything you have right now, Rasavan Prabhu, at the time of death, it's all taken away. Home, house, family, children, body, everything is taken away. Right? Everything is. So for you, everything is taken away, so it's a dissolution. So there's that pralay, the naimitika pralay, there's pralay at certain intervals, at the end of Manvantara, pralay coming at the night of Brahma, and then coming at the end of the life of Brahma. 4 types of pralay. So you ask about that. Is it a bit deep or is it digestible? I'm getting very few response. Please describe how many dissolutions are there. So that is also been asked. Now we shall describe 38 and 37 is okay for the last. 38 is my last verse I will do today. Yeah. Purushasya cha sangsthanam swarupam va parasya cha jnanam cha naiganam yattat guru shishya prayojanam. What are the truth regarding the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What are their identities? What are the specific values in the knowledge in the Vedas? What are the necessities for the spiritual master and his disciples? So this is talking about shelter, talking about the absolute truth, talking about the relationship, talking about this knowledge of the Vedas, and what are the necessities for the spiritual master and his disciple, talking about the basics of spiritual life. So please read through them and make a note of all these different things. Question 1, question 2, question 3, asks about these things. And then you will actually start to understand, and I've classified most of them into the subject matter of the Bhagavatam, the 10 subject matter of the Bhagavatam. So there is left another 4 verses. So we will carry on next week. Please read the verses we've read again and read those 4 verses that is left, 39 to 42. And then manifestations of Brahma from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. This is very interesting. And that will be the last of the 2 units. And then another, by tomorrow, we may have done half of that. So by next Saturday, by Wednesday, we will finish this unit. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
I hope it's been of some value to you.
Very much. Thank you so much.
Well done, Prabhu. Hope we have not stressed you too much.
I'm only hoping that you being very kind and reading to yourself and being reading them. If you read them, even though you may not understand, it will be in the back of your mind and you're making that effort, that austerity. Then when the classes are being delivered, you will understand a lot more. So I'm hoping that you're reading ahead of time. You only have to read, just read them. Try to understand. Don't try to break your, just read them. 4 verses and then, half the chapter that follows. And for Wednesday. And then you have only like 4 or 5 days left. So you can read tomorrow. We can do a little bit. So just get an hour today and read. And then tomorrow we go over them. Then you will have some questions. But without reading, Bhakti Vaibhava will become very tedious. So any questions or comments on what you've studied so
I have
far?
a small question, please, Prabhu. A small question on that text 37. When it is let me translate it as 37. Please describe how many dissolutions there are for the elements of material nature and who survives after the dissolutions to serve the Lord while he is asleep. So if the Lord is asleep, I'm just presuming that all other creations, everything must will be standstill or in a suspended activity until maybe when he wakes up, activity resumes. That's my ordinary thinking.
Can someone repeat the questions? I have difficulty understanding.
Prabhu, can you repeat that question because I also lost it.
Okay, my question. That's text 37.
Yeah, I had that
37. Who said that? Who survives after the dissolutions to serve the Lord while he is asleep? That is, the Lord is asleep, So I'm presuming if the Lord is asleep, all other activities will have to be suspended.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu is asking question in regards to
Yes, I
this
understood that.
verse 37. Please describe
Yes.
how the dissolution there are for the elements of material nature and the survivors after the dissolution of the Lord while he is asleep. So he is saying that he is assuming that when the Lord is asleep, every other thing is asleep.
Well, who's talking about the Brahma? Because he's talking about Visharga here. So when Lord Brahma is asleep, right, what are the things that's going on? And what is the service that is going on towards him? It is relationship to Lord Brahma. So there was different divisions of creations you will see in chapter 10. Right? So he creates the 14 worlds, and according to his divisions of creations, when he goes to sleep, right, some things are not completely destroyed, and some things are left. So in the next morning, he recreates. So where does those things go to stay? Where are they? So we will read that too. So he's talking about Lord Brahma's night. What happens at the time of dissolution of Lord Brahma's night? That's what he's asking. Not Karona Dakshai Vishnu. Do you get me?
Yes, I get you, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I understand now.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the time, your patience, your tolerance, our mistakes. We pray
But
that
one thing I
Lord
will
Krishna-
not tolerate, you don't read, I will not tolerate.
Yeah, we'll try as much as possible to read as much as possible.
I see a very big book in front of Chitraputra, so he's reading. He's a good boy. Says reading. Okay.
Yes.
I request all of the devotees to please kindly unmute. Let us loudly chant the loudest of Hare Krishna for his time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Vancha Karpatarubhyascha Kripa
Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha.
Sindhubhya
Vaishnavibhyo namo.
His Grace Advaita Krishna Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Please assemble.